Today we watch When Australia Had a Sea. Well, it's about Australia again. We know Australia is like the place with all the evil and weird creatures. Besides to the people living there, obviously, I'm only talking about the rare creatures. And I guess we just hop in right now.
Australia. Easily one of the most beautiful countries on the entire planet. You've got white sand beaches, meandering rivers, sprawling savannas, and tropical forests, making it a true nature paradise. And yet, there is one teeny tiny problem, which is that all of these beautiful places are inhabited.
Damn the crazy boxers. There was a spider, get the flamethrower, burn them all down. Hans gets a Flammenwerfer.
By about the most messed up animals nature currently has in its arsenal, ranging from venomous everythings to giant
Oh no, not the venomous, poisonous, and toxic thingy again. I don't know.
predatory reptiles and fish that could
Fish.
remove a limb or two with
Shark.
ease. And while not exactly apocalyptic, Australia does have more animal deaths than even the USA, despite having 13 times less people and having a significantly higher level of healthcare for the average person. Therefore, if you ever take a vacation down under, just be a little mindful of where you step or swim.
Chad, don't believe them. This is like negative. This is like dolphin propaganda. They just want to make the sharks look bad. The shark didn't even attack. The shark was just the shark was just cuddling. I swear, Chad. Actually, I've been in Australia once. When I was a child, I was in Australia for a little bit. Like I guess it was like 1 week roundabout, and it was really nice, really hot actually. It was the first time I've watched Star Wars Episode 1 on TV in English. Like the first time I watched the first episode was in English. um, but that was really nice stuff. Really interesting with the animals. Just parrots flying around in the wild. Kind of peak there.
But, regardless of how it is now, you
The
can take
fucking
solace in the
kangaroos.
fact that Australia is actually much more safe today than it was in the past.
It's never safe, Chad. Look at them. They're kangaroos. They just beat the shit out of you. You don't want to fight a kangaroo. They throw hands. They know what they're doing. You're just a little silly creature trying to run at best if you can.
As through time, it seems to have followed the rule where the farther you go back, the more messed up everything becomes. And I do mean everything.
Enjoy your meal, silly lizards. Lizard. Boop.
For example, just 50,000 years ago, the Australians were already dealing with the largest land lizard ever, giant snakes, marsupial predators, and terrestrial crocs that could sprint across land. However, despite everything Australia has thrown at the world during the Cenozoic, none of it compares to what it was like during the Mesozoic, as it was then that Australia was the perfect breeding ground for nightmarish animals, and united terrestrial, avian, and aquatics apex predators into just one single place,
There's
the
me,
Eromanga
Chad.
Sea.
Sharks.
While the continent today is surrounded by water, it is for the most part still a very dry piece of land, with only 4% of its surface being covered by water. Yet during the late Cretaceous, it was the opposite story, as at certain times, over 50% of the landmass was submerged by the Eromanga Sea, a vast ancient inland sea that had profound impacts on Australia and its wildlife. Scientists believe that it was created during the early days of the Cretaceous, when warmer temperatures caused a rise in global sea levels, resulting in the ocean flooding Australia from the north and reaching all the way to Eromanga, Queensland, which happens to be the furthest town from any coast, and the inspiration behind its name.
Damn, I feel like I actually learned something again. Crazy work.
Even for an inland sea, the Eromanga was extremely shallow, being just a few tens of meters or feet deep in some areas. But what it lacked in depth, it made up for in width, as it was over 2,000 kilometers or 1,200 miles at its widest, and all in all, was about the same size as the Sea of Japan, but looked nothing like it, as its waters were unusually muddy, stagnant, and for the Cretaceous, cold, with the most southern points possibly seeing near freezing temperatures during the winter, a result of Australia having a lower latitude at the time. And yet, this strange stagnant soup proved to be just what was needed.
Damn, are those like the prehistoric psychopaths of the ocean? Is this like early breed dolphins that we see here?
For an explosion of horrific animals, as it created organic and iron-rich sediments, plus a variety of coastal habitats, attracting all sorts of life, leading to its waters and surrounding areas being just about the busiest place on the entire planet. Now, throughout a good chunk of the Cretaceous, the Eromanga Sea wasn't a place you'd want to be, but some points were definitely worse than others, and it reached peak nopeness during the Albian stage, which took place between 113 and 100 million years ago.
Okay, that's like all like times I really don't want to exist and even less want to be in or around Australia. Just saying.
Given that it was the Cretaceous, you might be thinking that if you fell into these murky waters, you'd be met with a titanic
Freaky fish. Oh my, he's so excited to jump the other fish.
mosasaur, or perhaps two. But in reality, there was actually no mosasaurs at all in these waters, as they had not yet evolved. Instead, this inland sea had a very different top dog, who would have given mosasaurs a good run for their money, and were arguably scarier: the pliosaurs. While mainly being known as the kings of the Jurassic, the early Cretaceous did have a few still roaming around, and Eromanga in particular was a hotspot, with multiple kinds being present. Based on pure looks alone, they did have a bit of an edge over mosasaurs, sporting giant wide skulls lined with razor-sharp teeth and robust but streamlined bodies equipped with 4 large flippers that help them maneuver the shallow seas with eerie
Damn,
grace.
he has such a small tail. Look at him. He deserves a much longer tail. This looks like this looks uncool. He would look so much cooler with a big tail. I swear, Chad. He would look so much better.
And speed. And among the bunch that called these prehistoric waters home, the most abundant, who also happened to be by far the biggest and baddest, was the Kronosaurus, who was one of the biggest pliosaurs to ever live, and the biggest predator within the Eromanga, with adults reaching 11 meters or 36 feet long, and weighing over 15 tons thanks to their robust builds,
Damn, what a fat.
which actually made them heavier than the later giant mosasaurs. And this might not have been its final form, as 2 titanic specimens suggest a theoretical size of up to 13 meters or 43 feet, akin to the length of certain gray whales. So naturally, everything on this apex predator's body matched its stature.
Apex Predator, you hear, Chad? This is literally me. Like not visually. I'm more like on the shark side, but I am an Apex Predator. I'm scary. I'm frightening. You should like be scared of me. And yes.
With its flippers all being longer than the average NBA player is tall, and its skull reaching sizes greater than anything seen in dinosaurs, minus ceratopsids, with one specimen having a head a third longer than any known T-Rex skull. Each of these massive domes came with 6 pairs of pointed conical teeth that could be both recurved and lined with grooves.
Damn, I need teeth like that. I could like, I don't know, if there's like something cute, something nice, I could jump with teeth like that. That would be so peak. Oh my.
Allowing for seamless, deep punctures as it bit into prey. And because each tooth had a very wide base, paleontologists assume it was specialized in hunting large animals, even more so than other pliosaurs, as its teeth were unique amongst its family. And not to mention that its bite force was also insanely powerful, with one test finding that an adult Kronosaurus could likely deliver over 27,000 newtons of force per bite, which is, 18 times the power of a tiger's bite, and more than enough to crush or punch holes straight through tough flesh, muscles, and bones. And to the dismay of all that lived in the sea or dared to venture into it, Kronosaurus would have also had a massive appetite, as studies on its bone growth found an extreme level of metabolism.
Oh, this is so birdcore. Holy shit. Why are some birds like this? Have you considered eating something in your size? And when I say something in your size, I don't mean something that is as big as you. So, like, I mean something that is like fitting in your body.
Which rivaled that of birds. Therefore, it's technically possible that each day,
Made an all-you-can-eat buffet. That's some crazy work.
a large Kronosaurus needed to devour tons of food just to sustain itself, and its metabolism let it stay in the most southern, coldest parts of the Eromanga Sea. Therefore, if you took a swim and felt a little bit chilly, you'd probably know it was time to leave. Its voracious appetite is actually reflected by a wide range of other animals who were found with either bite marks in their skeletons or located directly within the stomach of a Kronosaurus. And to date, confirmed victims include giant turtles, plesiosaurs, fish, squid, large marine reptiles that were 60% of its own size, and even dinosaurs.
Damn, squids are also really cool. I want to know more about squids. Now, I need to meet the squid VTuber. Damn, squids are so cool. I wanna know more about them.
So simply put, the Kronosaurus did not care what you were, it just cared if you had meat. So Arby's, watch out. But its intense need for flesh ultimately created a lot more problems than it solved, with researchers noting that it had a very high juvenile mortality rate, with most
What?
specimens being immature and showing signs of cannibalism, which thus leads to the conclusion that the Kronosaurus's main obstacle might have been itself. The most prominent example of this was a 6-meter or 20-foot
Weren't like all the dinosaurs back in the days doing some kind of cannibalism? I feel like they just jumped everything walking down the path.
teenager, you could say, that was found with an eaten head. And I mean that literally, as the rest of its body was nowhere to be found. This kind of behavior has led some to think of the Kronosaurus as a croc-like animal behaviorally that attacked virtually anything that it came across. So think modern saltwater crocs, but much, much bigger. But how much bigger, you ask? Well, let's ask. There we go. About 23 times heavier. Amazingly enough, despite its many intimidating traits and size, there were still predators out there willing to challenge its reign,
Ah, so it's about size, I see.
even being known to take a bite out of it occasionally. Talk about the nerve.
He did.
So, what carnivore would be crazy enough to try this? Well, you only have to
Sark.
look at our own waters today, because the answer is sharks.
Sarks. Yeah.
Like some areas now, the Eromanga Sea was riddled with sharks, which was actually an uncommon trend for the
As
time,
it should
as they
be.
hadn't fully reestablished their dominance yet. But in the closed, cold waters of the Inland Sea, they sure had, and were known to be present in virtually every corner of it. Among the various kinds, the most
Sark.
successful and dominant were the lamniforms, better known as mackerel sharks, who,
Ah, I love sharks. Sharks are so peak, not gonna lie.
as you may know, are doing just fine. They are typically characterized by possessing 2 dorsal fins, an anal fin, 5 gill slits, and a mouth that extends behind the eye. And
Is this shark soup material? I mean, better him than me, right?
it's not unusual for these sharks to be quite
Sark.
feisty, leading to their scientific name, which means fish of prey. And their aggressiveness is further demonstrated by a Kronosaurus specimen that bore shark-shaped bite marks to its mandible.
What shaped? Friend shape. Sharks are friend shape.
These particular set of bite marks were not fatal, and the victim in question was on the smaller
Freaky.
side, meaning that sharks may have preyed upon the king in its youth. And sure enough, there are multiple young Kronosaurus specimens with shark bite marks on them. And it wasn't just the king that got nipped, as many large fish have also been found partially devoured by prehistoric jaws. And among the perpetrators in this bloodshed, the most guilty was a type of Cretoxorhina like shark, which is
Sark.
terrible news if you know anything about the contemporary Western Interior Seaway,
I know nothing about that. Tell me more, silly creature.
as then you'd understand that Cretoxorhina was an absolute monster, reaching Goliath sizes and being capable of staging strikes at over 70 kilometers or 43 miles per hour, using its giant razor-sharp teeth to cause catastrophic bleeding and trauma. And these teeth were so serrated and sharp that it's led to it being nicknamed the Ginsu shark, after the famous Ginsu knives. And while the Australian version might not have been the same Cratoxorhina species from America, it could still be a sister species or a closely related family member, and was, in true Australian fashion, even deadlier, having similar, albeit longer teeth, and growing to be larger, with matured specimens hovering around 9 meters or 30 feet, while weighing over 6 tons, meaning it was one of the largest sharks to ever live, period, and makes the great whites of Australia today look like child's play.
Yeah, the great white shark is just a little, it's just a little cute pet. It's just an adorable little kitty. A little kitty. We should like get a pet shark.
The abnormal success of sharks in the sea might have been due to their powerful senses, which theoretically helped them navigate the murky waters and gain an advantage against competition. Or it could have been just something to do with Eromanga Sea in general, as there did seem to be a pattern of animals doing well here that were not generally popping off elsewhere. And another example of this was a group of animals actually in the midst of their own undoing, the Ichthyosaurs. While these were the rulers of the Triassic and large parts of the
He a fat
Jurassic, Ichthyosaurs had found themselves in a rather rut during the early Cretaceous, and were beginning a downwards trend that would unfortunately not stop, courtesy of climatic upheaval. And yet, in the Eromanga Sea, some of them were making one last stand, thriving despite everything, and reaching sizes not seen since the Jurassic. And while not the sea's apex predators, Eromanga ichthyosaurs still had impressive diets, which included a diverse amount of fish, occasional marine reptiles, and lots of squid, with one specimen even being discovered with a belly filled to the brim with belemnites that had been swallowed whole. While these guys were reptiles, they did bear quite a coincidental resemblance.
The evil creature. It's all propaganda. Every bad you heard today about sharks is because of this silly thing.
Dolphins, and likely mirrored their agility and speed, with their length-to-depth ratio being between 3 and 5, which is the perfect amount to reduce water resistance and drag. They also possessed smooth skin, compact bodies, and large tail flukes.
Damn, they're like me.
While making them among the fastest swimmers in Australia, and about 20% faster than any other marine reptile in their environment. And if you took a swim, you'd expect to see a few kinds flying about. But it was one genus in particular that was on top, the Platypterygius.
Damn, the name. I had to think about the platypus and maybe bury the platypus. No, my brain.
This genus was by a landslide the most common ichthyosaur, and made it big, specializing in deep diving, where it used its large eyes and toothy curved snout to pick off prey with ease. And for its level of speed, this creature was impressively huge, measuring over 7 meters or 23 feet, providing it a certain degree of defensive and offensive prowess against smaller and medium-sized animals. And though its teeth were designed mainly for softer prey, its size did allow for some bigger mouthfuls, like large protostegid sea turtles and even dinosaurs, specifically birds, as an Onontius was found within one stomach.
Damn.
However, its size did not come without risks, as it did bring the unwanted attention of true giant killers, like the Kronosaurus, with specimens being occasionally killed and partially eaten by them. There is also evidence that these ichthyosaurs prefer to stick to the southern shores like the pliosaurs did, too, where they remained a staple until the very bitter end, being among the last ichthyosaurs to have ever lived. So, as you can see, the Eromanga achieved quite a reputation through its own giant creatures.
Yes, give me more. I want to see more giant creatures.
However, like Australia today, the prehistoric waters didn't only nail down massive monsters, but also perfected those that were just downright
Chat, bring me the flamethrower. I don't wanna live with spiders. Let's erase them all.
hard to look at. And the best example of this were non-shark fish, who for the most part were actually pretty normal, with many kinds of halicomorphs, elapomorphs, albaliforms, and aspidarhynchids calling the sea home. But a couple of times, The fish went off the deep end, literally and metaphorically, in terms of look. For starters, there was this Zavactinus-like kuyu that grew to be over 8 feet or 2.5 meters long, and had a big old ugly mouth.
Oh my. I'm sorry for this fish. You seem to be a little ugly. I'm sorry.
Mouth that let it swallow down prey whole that was nearly its own size. So, you do the math. It typically liked to stick to the surface and was equally distributed across the entire sea, even being found in narrow straits and possibly brackish water. And while it was certainly an unfriendly sight, it wasn't as disturbing as something we are quite familiar with today: swordfish. Yeah, their long rostrums make them a bit odd and at times dangerous.
Swordfish are so cool. Like sawfish and the narwhals. They just cool. Look at them. They're just not as basic as the others. They kind of base, not gonna lie.
But the swordfish I'm talking about was messed up for a completely different reason: its teeth. Now, this probably sounds a
Narwhals swimming in the ocean.
bit strange, considering that modern swordfish are toothless. But in Cretaceous Australia, they were swimming dental abominations. And before getting ahead of myself, I should clarify that the swordfish I'm referring to were swordfish-like, not real ones, instead belonging to the now extinct Pachycormiform order. The one in Australia was specifically the Protosphaerina, who possessed teeth eerily similar in design to flat blades and were perfect for cutting, while being just as long as those seen in giant theropods, many times bigger than it. Which may be why paleontologists originally thought that this was a dinosaur. Another odd thing about this fish was its rostrum, which was reduced in length. This could be viewed as a good thing by some, since it limited its attack range, and yet in reality, this was actually terrible news, as it played a role in this creature's horrific killing method. You see, through convergent evolution,
Child! It's Perry. I knew it. It's f***ing Perry the platypus. And it's a ducking duck. Oh, and Sark. Sark!
Protosphaerina achieved a build similar to the living swordfish, in that it was very streamlined and had massive fins that generated immense speeds
Oh my, he had some massive fins.
that could be greater than 55 miles or 88 kilometers per hour. And of course, it used this speed to torpedo itself into prey, with the force being concentrated into its teeth and short-faced spear, resulting in the victim being literally sliced in half. And though not reaching the size of sharks, pliosaurs, and ichthyosaurs,
Sark!
this fish still was not a laughing matter, with adults touching 3
Where do I know this fish from? I feel like I've seen them in a game I played. Like, the exact shape, this face. Oh, what is this fish? Where do I know you from?
meters or 10 feet long. Ironically, while more harmless than the Protosphaerina, you also can't forget about plesiosaurs, who looked even scarier. Here in the Eromanga Sea, they were the most successful marine group from a diversity perspective, greatly ranging in distribution and size, with some being over 2 tons and 7 meters, or 23 feet long, and others only being slightly longer than a human. Though not monstrous hunters like the pliosaurs or sharks were,
Yeah, they seem chill. They just eat sand. Anakin Skywalker would like them. I'm just getting rid of all the sand. Ah, he don't like sand.
the plesiosaurs did have one major advantage, and that was their ability to adapt to different water salinity levels. Pliosaurs, sharks, ichthyosaurs, and fish were all usually found in just salt or brackish waters. Yet plesiosaurs were known to live in both, plus freshwater as well, being able to travel up rivers that ran into and fed the inland sea. This granted them the option to populate a multitude of environments, and meant that even the narrowest of waterways could potentially be harboring a multi-tonned animal. So, yeah, no thanks. Along with their adaptability, plesiosaurs were further empowered by strong flippers, keen eyesight, drag-resistant bodies, and of course, their iconic long necks that let them sneakily prod schools of fish without scaring them off. And then to kill,
Without scaring them off, I feel like it is really, really scary and frightening when this freaking giraffe-looking beast just jumps into the water. Oh my.
Their mouths were filled with dozens of small pointed teeth, perfect for catching fish and cephalopods. But unfortunately, their designs, no matter how efficient, did not stop them from becoming food for a lot of the top predators. And
No. Shaped like friend, not food.
given just how many of the Eromanga's animals were carnivores, it truly seems that nothing was completely safe in these waters. And yet, Eromanga still managed to squeeze in impressive animals that were relatively harmless, including giant turtles, man-sized cephalopods.
Cephalopods? I've never heard that word before. Is this like some kind of squid or what is that? Is this a squid?
A plethora of fish, jellyfish, camarias, bivalves, snails, and rays. All this made Eromanga one of the liveliest bodies of water, and given that most residents were predators, you'd think that animals on land would get the message to stay far away. But in reality, they were drawn to it like moths are to a light. And the coast of Eromanga and its surrounding environments were just as bountiful as the water.
That looks chill. I feel like we could build a nice base here, right? I mean, probably we get jumped away day night by some kind of crocodiles, gators, whatever, but it still looks kind of peaceful. This is not Ark. This screenshot kind of looks like Ark, yes.
Why animals are so plentiful is not 100% certain. Yet some of the potential reasons include that the sea provided food directly for certain creatures, while also creating a myriad of different biomes that are rich in resources, like coastal forests, wetlands, mangroves, flats, and marshes. Some of the inhabitants who lived in these environments provided the world with their own dose of terror.
Are these the biomes from Minecraft? Oh my.
So if you were dropped in the sea and somehow made it out in one piece, you'd still be screwed.
One Piece.
Heck, even if you made it to land and didn't see anything around you, there could still be danger from above, as these areas bred giants of the skies. Pterosaurs here thrived off of the fish the waters provided, and gave way to some absolute units, including the largest non-Asdarchid pterosaurs.
Damn, I'm so glad these creatures do not live anymore or like be not around anymore. I'm even like I'm even like a little paranoid when a big bird flies above my head and it's like I don't know big or I'm scared that a pigeon on my head. But imagine this thing would like circle the skies nowadays. No thanks, I'm staying home. Well, I stay at home anyways, but um
Ever, the Anhangueridae. Over 4 kinds are known to have lived in the Eromanga Basin, and they're a bit of a dying breed, being among the last of their kind to possess teeth, which were used to hunt primarily fish. But they were so plentiful, you probably couldn't have gone a day without seeing one of these guys scouring the
are these flying platypuses? Give him a head right now.
waters and shoreline, and they were very easy to spot, considering that the largest one, the Thapungaka, had a wingspan over 7 meters or 23 feet long. In other words, twice that of the biggest bird today. And it possibly got even bigger, reaching 31 feet or 9.5 meters. And so at this size, you probably wouldn't be taking any comfort in its piscivorous diet.
Yeah, back in the days, the birds were built different. Today, they're all so weak and boring.
As even a playful nip with its needle-like teeth would not have felt great. On the shorelines, pterosaurs were joined by another group of animals that have actually remained a staple in Australia, crocodiles, or rather crocodilians, with 2 genera being known of, the Confractosuchus and the Ichthyosaur. Up until now, neither have actually been found in saltwater areas, rather spending their time in the rivers that fed the sea. But paleontologists do believe that like the saltwater crocs of today, these 2 might have ventured between fresh, brackish, and saltwater, using ambush tactics to take out animals venturing too close to the water's edge, or even marine animals within the water itself.
Damn, the video about crocodiles we already watched, like seeing how they can jump out of the water and how high, this is crazy work.
A more common occurrence for the Ichthyosaur, which sported a narrower snout, while the Confractosuchus had wider jaws that were similar to those seen in modern crocodiles. Fortunately, the one silver lining is that both weren't supersized like their contemporary, the Dinosuchus, with Ichthyosaur only measuring 1 meter or 3.3 feet, and the Confractosuchus being a bit bigger at around 2.5 meters or 8 feet.
Damn, imagine riding on one of those to work. That would be so peak.
So about the same size as your typical Komodo dragon. But they made up for what they lacked in size with their larger-than-life diets. Because these guys, namely the Confractosuchus, had skull morphologies indicating a general diet of animals bigger than itself, which apparently included dinosaurs, as one specimen was found with an ornithopod within its abdomen, and another being unearthed right next to a sauropod that it was likely scavenging upon. Now, with all this said, though crocodilians and pterosaurs were no doubt deeply rooted in the area, it was still dinosaurs that reigned supreme on land, and they were surprisingly numerous near the Eromanga Sea, indirectly benefiting from the rich resources it provided. Additionally, the sea likely created various islands and blocked off certain sections of land, forcing many to cross or use beaches as walking paths. Located specimens show that virtually every type of dinosaur lived near Eromanga Sea, with sauropods in particular being quite widespread. And these sauropods weren't just any normal longnecks, but rather members of the infamous Titanosaur family, which to this day hold the title for the largest animals to ever walk. As of now, at least 5 genera called the land surrounding Eromanga home,
It's a giraffe.
including the Australotitan, Diamantinosaurus,
It's not a giraffe.
Savanosaurus, Ostrosaurus, and the Wintotitan. Each one was well over 10 tons, and the biggest, the Australotitan, might have weighed more than 70, while growing 30 meters or 100 feet long, making it the biggest Australian animal ever, and about 7 times the size of a large elephant. These absolute units likely fed on the trees and foliage provided by coastal forests, and based on fossil locations, typically stuck by rivers and near beaches. There is also evidence that it was fairly normal for a sauropod to die close enough to the sea that it eventually got dragged out by waves, with paleontologists thinking they may have played a huge role in underwater communities, acting a bit like a prehistoric whale fall.
Squid.
And tracks further suggest that groups often walked along the coast, frequently bringing them into close proximity with aquatic life. And sure enough, even Kronosaurus, sharks, and plesiosaurs have been found relatively close to sauropod skeletons. And it appears that these giants' preference for water extended to other herbivorous dinosaurs as well, including the Conbarosaurus, Mutaburosaurus, Iguanodontids, multiple unidentified ornithopods, and Ankylosaurs.
Damn, that's the guy with the crazy tail. He just beats you up with this, I don't know.
Now sure, these dinosaurs aren't the most scary or dangerous, but they were still probably not the animal you'd want to provoke. And they were by no means alone, as you did of course have meat-eating theropods that prowled the coastlines as well. And they were regrettably the worst kind possible, the Megaraptorans. If you've seen my recent video, you know why I say the worst. And if you haven't, you should.
They seem to be
Here's a little
evil.
refresher. Megaraptorans were a clade of carnivorous dinosaurs that had giant sickle claws, not on their feet, but their hands. That in combination with giant powerful arms, allowed Megaraptorans to essentially become Freddy Kruegers, slashing and impaling prey, which they would then literally eat like skewered kebabs.
Damn, this is like a death machine. Oh, if I was a dinosaur, I wanna be something like that. I wanna give like the best scratchies ever. Imagine your back is like a little itchy and I'm coming by and I'm like, hey, lay down. I can help you and give you like the nicest scratchies you could ever imagine with those claws. Kind of peak, right?
While alive. Oh, and don't forget that they also had extremely hollowed bones that made them much lighter than they should have been, resulting in them essentially being the cheetahs of their time, just a lot more horrifying. And of course, in true Australian fashion, there couldn't be only one Megaraptoran. Oh no, there had to be a couple, with at least one being identified and named, while the others remain undescribed. The classified genus, Australovenator, meaning southern hunter,
Astrolonator. Crazy name pick. Who gave him this name, huh?
is coincidentally the biggest Australian theropod known thus far, weighing around 310 kilos or 680 pounds and reaching 6 meters or 20 feet long. Thanks to its build, if this predator spotted you at close distance, you'd probably have no hope in outrunning it, and you wouldn't just have to worry about being skewered.
Damn, they're playing a scene from Star Wars. What was it? Episode 5?
Seeing that it also possessed serrated, recurved teeth that let it easily gobble up animals and cut through their flesh like butter. It's honestly only natural that in prehistoric Australia, you'd have a group of predators ruling land that were nearly as creepy as the ones below. And even though they haven't been discovered in the Eromanga
Eromanga Sea? Interesting. I remember an anime with the name. What was it? Eromanga Sensei or something like that? Was something comedy wise, if I remember correctly.
basin, there is the chance that many other kinds of theropods kept the surrounding land a death trap as well, with the Laphrosaurinid and Tyrannosauroids both being found not so far from where the sea was situated. Then, to tie it all together, on top of the endless carnivores, there was also danger from Mother Nature itself. You see, for much of the early Cretaceous, Australia would have dealt with rampant flooding as the sea expanded, ruining animals, and in some cases, causing mass drownings. There's even one discovery that hints at a group of dinosaurs which ended up trampling one another during a likely attempt to outrun a flood. Frequent volcanic eruptions
If I was a dinosaur back then, I would have definitely died because one of the big ones just stepped on me. Like not in a weird way, just in a way like I'm like not caring around my surroundings, just walking around, being silly and being like wow, what a nice day today. Time to be a dinosaur VTuber. My life's so peak, and then I'm just being yeah. That's how my dino lore ends.
and subsequently tsunamis were also a thing too, as during the later days, volcanic activity in the region began to tick upwards. On land, this meant ash clouds, lava flows, and other unpleasantries. Yet it was really in the sea where animals suffered, since the volcanism resulted in the continent's edges lifting up, which began to slowly dry the inland sea, and thus dooming many. And ultimately, it's thought that this was the final nail in the coffin for the Eromanga Sea, with it shrinking a little bit more every single day, until eventually it became completely replaced by vast floodplains, with researchers estimating that it disappeared by the time the Albian stage ended, marking the so-called extinction of one of the scariest places to ever exist.
That's interesting. Australia is a silly place, or was a silly place.